Welcome. In this episode, I'd like to talk about power management with the Raspberry Pi 2. The Raspberry Pi is designed to run around about 1.1 amp, 1000 milliamps or more or less, up to 1200 milliamps. Most power supplies that are supplied are 5 volt, 2 amp or 2000 milliamps power supplies, and they depend on quality. Unfortunately, I had experience the other day. I was trying to replicate to record and show, and unfortunately it is not doing it. I was attempting on the day of the recording of episode 3 to record using the Wi-Fi USB adapter to connect to the house's Wi-Fi. When I was actually doing the boot, I had a wireless card in there, a USB mouse, a USB keyboard, and powered up the device, and found that after running through it for a little while, as it booted up and got to where it started to boot to the full screen and the HDMI kicked in, suddenly the device would freeze or hang up. I was trying to duplicate this for this episode, but once again, power issues can be rather intermittent and it does not want to be cooperative. It seems to be working today. So once again, let's get into some more details about power and power expectations of the Raspberry Pi. This will become more important as we move into our next set of episodes, where we will be connecting input and output devices to the Raspberry Pi, and even more concerning is when we start to connect USB devices to the Pi. If we're running with 2.5 or 2 amps with a power at 5 volts, each USB power device can consume anywhere from 300 milliamps to 500 milliamps. So if you've got 4 devices pulling 300 milliamps, that's 1.2 amps. And if we've got a program that's doing quite a lot on the Raspberry Pi, let's say it's pulling also 1.2 amps, that is 0.4 of an amp higher than the amperage of the power supply we're using, which could cause the system to malfunction. There are some reports, but I have not had it luckily so far, where you can apparently cause some damage to the Pi. So let's move on to a nice book that I found. Let me share that with you, and some excerpts from that book to explain power management with the Raspberry Pi. If you are looking at getting into using the Raspberry Pi, I would highly recommend this book by Warren Gray. It's the Raspberry Pi hardware reference. This book gives detailed information on a number of areas, one of them being the power consumption, which is a lot of the information that I used and confirmed with other sources for my use, and some of that is what the discussion of this show is. As you can see, there's a lot of good information and detailed information in this book, well worth the price of money that you pay for getting it. This is the chapter on power, and it has a lot more detailed information that I will briefly skim into this show. So as you can see here, the input voltage of a Model B is 5 volts and the expected are 1.1 amp. There are some fuses which are there to protect the device, but it's if they blow, they are supposed to reset, seeing that they are of a specific crystal matter that will refuse. But if you blow too much, the device won't work again. So important is to get a voltage, a power supply, which will be great enough input to power the Raspberry Pi, as well as to power any of the sensors or devices that you have connected to it, or you need to power those circuits off their own supply. That's not draining the power away from the power of the Pi itself. So another item of interest on the Raspberry Pi is that the pins to it are 3.3 volts. So it's a 3.3 high logic, not a 5 volt TTL. So you need to step down that voltage if you're driving TTL, and you also need to be careful on power going into it. The maximum current can be 50 amps, but it's probably safer to think around about 16 milliamps, 50 milliamps versus 16 milliamps per each item for the power of the driver pins. If you also connecting to a lot of USB devices, consider using a powered USB hub. That will remove the power restraints from the Raspberry Pi, and the power driving the powered USB hub would provide power to the additional USB devices that you are connecting to. So be careful. There are a lot of cheap power adapters out there, so be careful what you need to do getting there. There's also ways that you can measure your voltage once you've got your system up and powered, to verify that you are getting the right. Thank you for watching the episode. If you enjoyed learning more about the Internet of Things and the Raspberry Pi, please watch more episodes in the future. Or you can subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.